The crowd roared as Dallas staggered into the arena, the harsh white lights momentarily blinding him. Months in the dim prison cells had sensitized his eyes to even the faintest illumination. Now, thrust into this blazing coliseum, he could barely make out the silhouettes of thousands of Crisari spectators, their massive wings creating undulating patterns against the domed ceiling. "Move, human," growled the guard behind him, prodding Dallas with an electrified staff. The jolt wasn't particularly painful, more a reminder of his place than actual punishment. The Crisari had learned early that damaging their entertainment reduced its value. Dallas stepped forward, his makeshift weapon swinging from a length of salvage chain gripped tightly in his right hand. He'd spent weeks crafting in secret, melting down scraps of metal from his food trays, binding them together with wiring he'd pulled from the decrepit light fixture in his cell. In the viewing box high above, Commander Rylan, known simply as Rin among the warriors, leaned forward with mild interest. This human was different from the usual sniveling specimens they captured. Where others had begged for mercy or stood frozen in terror, this one walked with purpose, scanning the arena methodically. His eyes, adjusted now to the light, swept across the exits, the guard positions, even the infrastructure of the dome itself. "Your champion approaches, my daughter." Emperor Vorak's voice boomed beside her, his massive platinum wings unfurling slightly in anticipation. Rin nodded respectfully, but kept her attention on the human. What was his function before capture? "An engineer from their exploration vessel," Sora replied, the Emperor's chief advisor materializing like a shadow behind the royal seats. "Nothing special. Their species is barely interstellar. They stumbled into our territory like insects into a storm." Rin's violet eyes narrowed. "Engineers understand systems. Weaknesses. Structural vulnerabilities." Sora's dismissive laugh was like ice cracking. "And what will he do with such knowledge? Look at his weapon, a primitive ball and chain. He may as well fight with a child's toy." Below, the announcer's voice thundered through the arena. "Citizens of the glorious Crisari Empire, today's entertainment begins with a newcomer to our games. A human engineer who dares to challenge the might of our warriors." Dallas tightened his grip on the chain as the opposite gate began to rise. He knew what came next. He'd watched from his cell as prisoner after prisoner had faced Crisari warriors, had seen the uneven matches played for spectacle rather than sport. Most lasted less than 5 minutes. None survived. The challenger emerged, a female Crisari with scaled armor over her deep blue skin, her wings tucked tightly against her back for combat. She carried no weapon, but wore the signature technology of the Crisari elite, an energy shield generator on her forearm that could project an impenetrable barrier of light. Dallas had watched these shields deflect everything from projectiles to energy blasts. Nothing had ever broken one. "Begin," the announcer commanded, and the crowd's roar became deafening. The Crisari warrior activated her shield, the blue-white energy field humming to life before her. She smiled coldly at Dallas, clearly expecting the usual display of fear. Instead, he began to swing his makeshift weapon in a slow circle, building momentum. "Clever toy, human," she taunted, her voice translating clearly through the arena systems. "Did you make it yourself?" Dallas didn't respond. His focus remained absolute, eyes tracking the slight fluctuations in her shield as it stabilized. "Come then," she beckoned, spreading her arms wide behind the protection of her shield. "Show me what pathetic resistance your species can offer before you die." The crowd laughed, entertained by her theatrics. Even Emperor Vorak smiled indulgently. Only Rin remained silent, observing intently as Dallas suddenly launched forward. His movement was precise, calculated, not the desperate charge of prey, but the measured advance of a predator. The warrior reacted with practiced ease, centering her shield to intercept his attack. The metallic sphere at the end of Dallas's chain swung in a perfect arc, connecting with the energy shield at precisely the point where its emission field was thinnest. What happened next silenced the entire arena. The improvised weapon struck the shield, and, instead of bouncing off harmlessly as expected, sent visible cracks through the energy field like lightning through glass. For one frozen moment, the shield held, fracture lines spreading across its surface. Then it shattered completely. The warrior staggered backward in shock as her supposedly impenetrable protection dissolved around her. Dallas, prepared for this moment, continued his momentum and brought the chain around for a second strike that caught her squarely in the chest, sending her sprawling to the ground. The silence in the arena was absolute. 10,000 Chrysari, from the lowliest servant to Emperor Vorak himself, sat in stunned disbelief. Rin rose slowly to her feet, wings partially extended in unconscious threat display. "He broke the shield," she whispered, her voice carrying in the unnatural quiet. "He broke it with a toy." Dallas had expected to die after the match. Breaking a Chrysari shield, their symbol of technological superiority, was surely a capital offense. Instead, he found himself in a laboratory space, surrounded by agitated Chrysari scientists who examined his crude weapon with a mixture of contempt and alarm. "Explain," demanded Sora, circling him like a predator. Her wings, smaller than the royal family's but still impressive, were folded tightly against her back in obvious tension. "I have nothing to say," Dallas replied evenly, though internally he calculated his odds of survival with each passing minute. "You will speak," she hissed, leaning close enough that he could smell the metallic undertone of her breath. "Or we will extract the knowledge by less accommodating methods." "Let me," a new voice interrupted. Rin entered the laboratory, her royal wings marking her unmistakably as the Emperor's daughter, even without the ornate armor she wore. The scientists immediately backed away, creating a path for her. Dallas watched her approach, noting the fluid grace of her movements. Unlike Sora's predatory stalking, Rin moved with the confidence of someone who had never known defeat. "You created this weapon specifically to break our shields," she stated. Not a question, but a certainty. Dallas met her gaze. "Yes," Sora snarled, but Rin raised a hand to silence her. "Ow!" Rin asked simply. Dallas remained silent, weighing his options. Every moment he kept this knowledge to himself was another moment humanity might gain an advantage against their oppressors. "Your species faces extinction," Rin continued matter-of-factly. "We have already subjugated 3 of your colonies and identified your homeworld. Cooperation could spare millions. Or give you better shields to ensure our complete defeat," Dallas countered. A slight smile curved Rin's lips, an expression so unexpected on Chrysari features that Dallas momentarily lost his composure. "A fair assessment," she acknowledged. "However, consider this. My father has ordered your dissection if you refuse to cooperate. Your knowledge dies with you. Alternatively, you assist us in understanding this vulnerability, and you live to perhaps find other opportunities." The emphasis on her final words wasn't lost on Dallas. Was this a trap? Or was she offering something more subtle? "I'll need access to your shield technology," he said finally. "And testing equipment." "Unacceptable," Sora interjected. "This prisoner cannot be given." "Done," Rin cut her off. "Javed will assist you." She gestured to a smaller Chrysari with rust-colored wings who had been silently observing from a corner workstation. Javed approached cautiously. "Champion, the Emperor, has authorized me to resolve this matter," Rin finished firmly. "Set up a research station. The human will work under constant guard, and I will personally oversee his progress." Dallas watched this exchange with careful attention. The hierarchy was clear. Rin's authority derived directly from the Emperor, while Sora, despite her advisory position, held less immediate power. This dynamic could be useful. "One more condition," Dallas said. "I need to understand what you're planning to do with the improved shields." Rin's violet eyes studied him with newfound interest. "Bold request, prisoner. Necessary context," he replied. "Engineering solutions depend on application parameters." A moment of silence stretched between them before Rin nodded once. "Acceptable. You'll be briefed on relevant deployment scenarios." As the others prepare the laboratory, Sora moved close to Rin, speaking in low tones that Dallas nonetheless caught. This is dangerous, champion. The Emperor may have approved investigation, but giving a human access to our military plans? He's clearly intelligent and already demonstrated ability to exploit our technology, which is precisely why we need him. Rin responded coolly. Better to know our vulnerabilities now than discover them during combat. And if he creates new weaknesses while fixing the current one? Rin's gaze shifted to Dallas, finding him watching their exchange. Rather than look away, he held her stare. Then we'll have learned something valuable about humans, she said. Perhaps they're more worthy adversaries than we thought. Over the next weeks, Dallas worked under close observation, methodically documenting the resonance flaw in the Crisari shield technology. The shields operated on a quantum harmonic principle, elegant and nearly impervious to conventional attacks. But his makeshift weapon had accidentally struck the precise resonant frequency that caused catastrophic feedback in the system. It's like striking a perfect crystal glass with the right musical note, he explained to Javed, who had proven unexpectedly collaborative. Hit the exact frequency, and the seemingly solid structure vibrates itself apart. But our shields use randomized frequency modulation, Javed objected, his smaller wings twitching in confusion. We shouldn't have a single vulnerability point. That's what I thought too, Dallas agreed, projecting schematics onto the laboratory's holographic display. But look here, all your modulation patterns derive from a single algorithmic seed. Different results, but all fundamentally linked. Javed's eyes widened as he processed the implication. So breaking one pattern reveals the underlying framework for all of them, Dallas confirmed. Your security is based on complex variation rather than true randomization. Fascinating. Rin's voice came from the doorway. She had taken to observing their sessions regularly, sometimes for hours. Dallas had noticed her growing interest extended beyond mere security concerns. The solution is relatively simple, Dallas continued, aware of her scrutiny. Implement truly isolated frequency patterns for each shield generator with no common seed algorithm. That would require complete redesign of our manufacturing processes, Javed noted, his technical mind immediately grasping the implications. Yes, Dallas acknowledged. But the alternative is a fatal vulnerability across your entire defense network. Rin moved closer to examine his calculations. You're suggesting that a single frequency disruptor could potentially disable every shield in an entire battle group. Dallas nodded slowly, watching her reaction. Theoretically, her eyes met his, and something unspoken passed between them. She understood he had just revealed knowledge that could devastate her species' military advantage. Knowledge he could have kept hidden. Why tell us this? She asked quietly. Because fixing isolated shield units doesn't address the systematic vulnerability, he replied. And because you promised information about deployment plans in exchange. Rin considered him for a long moment before turning to Javed. Continue the work. I'll take our human engineer to the Strategic Command Center as agreed. Sora materialized from the shadows of the corridor outside, her constant surveillance no longer a secret. Champion, the Emperor has not authorized. The Emperor authorized me to gain this human's cooperation by any necessary means, Rin interrupted, her wings flaring slightly in a dominance display. His expertise is proving more valuable than anticipated. Would you prefer I report that your objections hindered our progress? Sora's eyes narrowed, but she stepped aside. As you wish, champion. I'll accompany you, of course. Of course, Rin echoed with the barest hint of smile. The journey through the Crisari Imperial Complex revealed more than Dallas had seen in his months of captivity. The architecture soared impossibly high, accommodating the natural flight patterns of the Crisari. Ground-based transportation seemed almost an afterthought, with walkways narrowing and widening unpredictably. Your species builds for efficiency, Dallas observed as they passed through a particularly grand atrium where Crisari officials soar between levels. And yours doesn't, Rin asked, genuinely curious. We build for accessibility, he replied. Structures that can be navigated by anyone, regardless of physical capability. Interesting, she mused. We would consider that inefficient, designing for the lowest common denominator rather than encouraging evolutionary advancement. Different philosophy, Dallas shrugged. We see strength in diversity rather than uniformity. Rin glanced at him with an unreadable expression. Perhaps that explains how your primitive species managed to challenge our shields when dozens of more advanced civilizations failed. Behind them, Sora made a derisive sound but offered no comment. The Strategic Command Center was a vast spherical chamber with three-dimensional holographic displays showing star systems, fleet positions, and planetary defense networks. Dallas immediately recognized the human colony worlds, small blue dots surrounded by the crimson markers of Crisari occupation forces. As promised, Rin gestured to the display. Our current deployment and next phase expansion plans. Dallas stared at the projection with growing horror. The Crisari weren't simply picking off border colonies. They had mapped Earth's location and were systematically establishing a containment perimeter. Within months, humanity would be completely encircled, cut off from potential allies and resources. You're not just conquering us, he said quietly. You're isolating us for extinction. Rin didn't deny it. The Emperor believes your species represents a unique threat despite your technological inferiority. Your demonstration with the shield convinced many who previously thought him overcautious. Because we adapt, Dallas realized. We find weaknesses where others see only strength. Precisely, she confirmed. Most species we encounter either surrender immediately or fight conventionally until defeated. Humans. Improvise. It makes you unpredictable. Dallas absorbed this information, his mind racing through implications. And these new shield improvements will be deployed across this entire containment fleet? Yes, within 2 standard cycles, assuming your modifications can be implemented efficiently. 2 cycles, perhaps 8 Earth weeks. That was the timeline for humanity's encirclement. I need to make adjustments to my designs, Dallas said carefully. Seeing the deployment scale changes some of my assumptions. Rin studied him closely but nodded. Reasonable. We'll return to the laboratory. As they left the command center, Dallas felt Sora's suspicious gaze burning into his back. She hadn't bought his explanation, but as long as Rin continued to support his work, he had a chance. Not just to survive, but perhaps to act. Later that night, alone in his slightly improved prison quarters, Dallas meticulously recalled every detail of the strategic displays. A plan was forming, desperate and with minimal chance of success, but still a plan. He would need to modify his shield improvement design to include a backdoor, a master frequency that could temporarily disable the entire network. But implementing it would require help from inside the Crisari power structure. It would require Rin. The question was whether she could ever be convinced to betray her father and her entire species. Everything he had observed suggested her loyalty was absolute. Her position as champion earned through countless victories for the Empire. Yet there had been moments, subtle expressions, questions that bordered on philosophical rather than tactical, and most significantly, her willingness to share strategic information beyond what was strictly necessary. Dallas closed his eyes, focusing on the challenge ahead. To save humanity, he would need to convince the deadliest warrior in the Crisari Empire to question everything she had been raised to believe. The resonance calibrations are complete, Dallas announced 3 days later, presenting his final design modifications to Javed and the research team. With these changes, the shields should be impervious to the type of harmonic disruption I demonstrated. Javed reviewed the specifications with obvious approval. Elegant solution. Multiple independent frequency layers with no mathematical relationship between them. Even knowing one layer's resonance pattern would be useless against the others. Precisely, Dallas confirmed, watching as Rin entered the laboratory. Her timing was impeccable, as always. The trade-off is slightly increased power consumption and more complex manufacturing, but the security improvement is worth it. Excellent work, Rin acknowledged, examining the designs. The Emperor will be pleased. Production can begin immediately. Sora stepped in behind her, wings rigid with suspicion. Have designs been thoroughly verified? I find it convenient that a solution was found so quickly. My team has confirmed the mathematical models, Javed reported. We'll have physical prototypes for testing by tomorrow. I want to observe those tests personally, Sora insisted. And the human should be returned to standard containment now that his usefulness is concluded. Dallas tensed, but kept his expression neutral. If he lost his access to the laboratory and Rin's protection, his hidden modifications would never be discovered, but neither would he have any chance to activate them. The project isn't complete, Rin countered smoothly. We need him for the testing phase and potential adjustments. The champion is correct. Javed unexpectedly supported her. The human's insight into his own weapon's functionality is still valuable. We should retain him until full implementation. Sora's eyes narrowed, but she recognized she was outvoted. Very well, but his access is restricted to this laboratory only, and guards are doubled. After she left, Dallas caught Rin watching him with an unreadable expression. You have something to say, champion? He asked quietly. Walk with me, she replied, gesturing toward the laboratory's small observation deck. The guards moved to follow, but she waved them back. Maintain visual contact only. Once they were relatively private, she turned to face him. You've included a backdoor in the shield design. Dallas felt his blood freeze. She knew. After all his careful work hiding the modifications in layers of legitimate improvements, she had seen through him. What makes you think that? He asked, fighting to. Keep his voice steady. Because it's what I would do, she replied simply. And because your solution is too perfect otherwise. You found a way to make the shield's genuine series of increasingly powerful weapons, from projectiles to energy beams, fired at it in sequence. The shield deflected everything flawlessly, its surface not even flickering under the assault. Impressive, Vorak acknowledged. But the real test is against the specific vulnerability the human exploited. Dallas stepped forward on cue. With your permission, Emperor, I'll demonstrate the original frequency attack, and then show how the new shields resist it. Vorak nodded, and Dallas activated the harmonic emitter they had constructed based on his original weapon. The sound was barely perceptible to human ears, but he knew the Chrysari, with their more sensitive hearing, could detect its eerie tone. The shield surrounding the test dummy remained stable, showing no signs of the fracturing that had occurred in the arena. As you can see, Dallas explained, the new multi-layered frequency design prevents the harmonic resonance from cascading through the shield matrix. Vorak leaned forward, clearly pleased. Excellent. And this improvement has been incorporated into the production specifications. Yes, Emperor, Javed confirmed. All shield generators manufactured from this point forward will include the enhanced protection. What about existing units? Sora inquired, her suspicious nature never quite satisfied. A firmware update can be transmitted to most current generation shields, Javed explained, though older models will require physical modification. See to it immediately, Vorak commanded. I want all fleet shields upgraded within one cycle. There is one more test I recommend, Emperor. Rin spoke up, her voice calm despite the tension Dallas could sense beneath her composed exterior. We should verify that multiple shields operating in proximity don't create unexpected interference patterns. Sora frowned. Is that really necessary, champion? The individual shields function perfectly. In combat, our warriors fight in formation, Rin replied smoothly. Shield interference could create unexpected vulnerabilities. Better to discover them here than in battle. Vorak considered this, then nodded. A prudent suggestion. Proceed. Javed, who had been briefed by Rin earlier, immediately activated 4 additional test dummies, positioning them in standard Chrysari battle formation around the central figure. All shields activating simultaneously, he announced, initiating the sequence. This was the moment Dallas and Rin had prepared for. As the 5 shields harmonized, the control system briefly connected them to the main Chrysari defense network for synchronization, standard procedure that would go unnoticed by anyone not specifically looking for it. In that brief connection, Dallas's hidden code executed, uploading the backdoor protocol to the central system. Within seconds, it would begin propagating across the entire network, embedding itself in every shield in the Empire. The change was subtle, undetectable without the specific diagnostic tools Dallas had carefully avoided creating. Shields operating at optimal efficiency, Javed reported, genuinely impressed by the performance. No interference detected. Excellent. Vorak rose from his seat, wings extending to their full impressive span. You have done well, Javed, and you, human. Perhaps there is value in keeping intelligent specimens alive rather than simply using them for entertainment. Thank you, Emperor, Dallas replied with carefully measured deference. Champion, Vorak turned to his daughter. Oversee the fleet-wide implementation. I want our containment strategy accelerated now that this vulnerability has been addressed. Yes, Father, Rin bowed her head respectfully. As the Emperor and his entourage departed, Dallas caught Rin's eye briefly. An almost imperceptible nod confirmed what he already knew. Phase 1 was complete. The backdoor was deployed. Now came the far more dangerous part. Accessing the central communications array to broadcast the activation signal that would disable every Crisari shield simultaneously. Located in the most secure section of the Imperial Palace, the array was accessible only to the highest-ranking Crisari officials, which meant they needed one more ally. Later that evening, as Dallas worked on finalizing the shield update packages with Javed, he carefully broached the subject he and Rin had discussed. These transmission patterns are fascinating, he commented, examining the communications protocols. The coherence across such vast distances is remarkable. Javed's wings shifted in what Dallas had come to recognize as a gesture of pride. The central array is the Emperor's greatest achievement, a unified communications network spanning all Crisari territories. I imagine the security must be extraordinary, Dallas pressed gently. Naturally, Javed confirmed. Though as chief engineer on this project, I have access for system diagnostics and updates. Dallas nodded. Thoughtfully, you must be one of very few with such privileges. Indeed, only the Imperial family, Sora, myself, and 2 other senior technicians can access the core systems. Javed paused, giving Dallas a curious look. Why do you ask? Professional interest, Dallas shrugged. On Earth, we debate centralized versus distributed command structures. Your system seems elegantly centralized. Efficiency through unity. Javed quoted what was clearly an Imperial motto. But then, more quietly, he added, though not all Crisari believe absolute centralization is without risk. Dallas kept his expression neutral, despite his surprise. Oh, Javed glanced around, confirming they weren't being closely monitored. There are those who question whether conquest is the only path to strength. Small voices, rarely heard above the Imperial pronouncements. You sound like one of them, Dallas ventured cautiously. The Crisari engineer's rust-colored wings twitched nervously. I have colleagues who see alternative futures for our people, more sustainable ones. The resistance Rin mentioned, Dallas thought but didn't say aloud. Instead, he asked, and what future do you see, Javed? The engineer was silent for a long moment before responding. One where our technological achievements benefit more than just our military ambitions, where we build rather than simply conquer. Dallas felt a surge of hope. That's a future worth working toward. Perhaps, Javed acknowledged cautiously, though speaking of such things is dangerous when Sora's agents could be listening. I understand, Dallas nodded. Let's focus on these transmission protocols. But the seed had been planted. If Javed truly harbored sympathies for the resistance, he might be the crucial third ally they needed to access the central array. As they worked through the night, Dallas caught glimpses of Rin passing by the laboratory, ostensibly supervising the implementation, but actually confirming that their plan remained undetected. Each time their eyes met, Dallas felt a strange connection strengthening between them. Human and Crisari, prisoner and champion, unlikely allies in an increasingly dangerous game. By morning, the shield updates were being transmitted throughout the fleet. Reports confirmed successful implementation across 60% of Crisari forces, with full coverage expected within days. The Emperor is pleased, Sora announced, entering the laboratory with a squad of guards. So pleased that he has made a decision regarding you, human. Dallas tensed, looking to Javed, who seemed equally surprised by this development. What decision? He asked carefully. Your usefulness has come to its natural conclusion, Sora stated with thinly veiled satisfaction. Rather than return you to the arena, however, the Emperor has decreed a more scientific approach to extracting value from your species. Meaning, you'll be transferred to the Biological Research Division. Sora's smile was chilling. Your cognitive functions have proven interesting. They wish to study your brain tissue in greater detail. Dallas fought to keep his expression neutral despite the horror her words evoked. Vivisection. When? He managed to ask. Immediately. The guard will escort you. This is unnecessary, Javed protested. He's still valuable to our shield research. The Emperor has decided. Sora cut him off sharply. Or do you question his judgment? Javed's wings drooped in submission. No, I'd be sore. Of course not. As the guards moved to seize Dallas, the laboratory door slid open and Rin entered, her timing once again impeccable. There's been a change of plans, she announced, her authority immediately halting the guards. Sora's eyes narrowed. What change? The Emperor ordered. The Emperor has granted my request to personally oversee the humans' final interrogation. Rin interrupted smoothly. As champion, I wish to understand how a supposedly inferior species developed the insight to threaten our shield technology. Such knowledge could prevent future vulnerabilities. I was not informed. Sora's voice was tight with suspicion. The Emperor does not require your approval for granting my requests, advisor, Rin replied, her tone deliberately provocative. Unless you wish to challenge my authority as champion? The tension between them was palpable. Everyone in the room knew that challenging the champion meant trial by combat, a contest Sora would almost certainly lose. Of course not, Sora finally responded. How long will this interrogation require? No more than 1 day, Rin stated. The human will be delivered to biological research by tomorrow's first light. Sora clearly wasn't satisfied, but could see no way to object without directly challenging Imperial authority. Very well, but I expect a full report on any relevant findings. Naturally, Rin agreed with cool professionalism. As Sora departed, clearly fuming, Dallas felt a momentary relief that quickly gave way to renewed urgency. Their timeline had just been dramatically compressed. Whatever they planned to do with the central array, it now had to happen within hours, not days. Ceremonial blade. Sora's locked us in, which means she's coming with reinforcements. How much time? Dallas asked, still working feverishly at the console. Minutes at most, Javed replied, his wings tight against his back in obvious stress. The Emperor's elite guard will have been activated. Then we finish this now, Dallas stated, initiating the final sequence. The crystal matrix at the center of the chamber began pulsing more rapidly, its color shifting from blue to violet as the transmission prepared to launch. Wait, Rin suddenly interjected, moving to Dallas's side. If we do this, thousands of Chrysari warriors will be left defenseless. There must be a way to minimize casualties. Dallas paused, looking at her with newfound respect. Even now, with everything at stake, she thought of her people's safety. We can include a warning transmission, he suggested. A 30-second alert before the shields fail. It won't give them time to prevent it, but it might allow many to retreat from active combat zones. Do it, Rin nodded, relief evident in her expression. Dallas quickly modified the transmission sequence, adding the warning protocol. As he worked, the sound of heavy impacts began to resonate through the sealed doors. They're coming through, Javed warned, backing away from the entrance. Almost done, Dallas assured them, fingers flying across the interface. The crystal matrix now pulsed with increasing intensity, the transmission building power for galaxy-wide distribution. With a final decisive command, Dallas activated the sequence. It's done. 30 seconds until the warning, 1 minute until full shield failure across the Empire. The chamber doors groaned as something massive impacted them from outside. Metal twisted, the reinforced barriers beginning to buckle under extraordinary force. That's not standard Imperial guards, Javed observed with alarm. Only one Crisari has that kind of physical strength. Father, Rin whispered, her voice suddenly small. The doors exploded inward, fragments scattering across the chamber floor. In the open doorway stood Emperor Vorak, his massive wings fully extended in fury, flanked by Sora and a dozen elite guards. What is the meaning of this treachery? Vorak demanded, his voice reverberating with imperial authority, his golden eyes fixed on Rin with a mixture of rage and disbelief. My own daughter, conspiring with humans? Explain yourself. Rin stepped forward, placing herself between Dallas and her father. I'm ensuring the Empire has a future beyond endless conquest. The path you've chosen leads only to more resistance, more conflict. Weakness. Vorak spat. I raised you to be a champion, not a traitor. Guards, Sora commanded. Seize the human and terminate him immediately. The engineer as well. Stop. Rin's voice cracked with authority, temporarily freezing even the elite guards in place. Father, listen to me. The human has activated a transmission that will disable all Crisari shields in less than a minute. If you kill him now, there will be no way to reverse it. Vorak's eyes narrowed dangerously. You're bluffing. The crystal matrix pulsed urgently, and throughout the chamber, communication terminals began broadcasting a clear message. Warning, critical shield failure imminent. All warriors disengage from combat and seek cover. Not bluffing, Dallas confirmed, stepping up beside Rin. In approximately 40 seconds, every shield in the Crisari Empire will fail simultaneously. Impossible, Sora hissed. No single weakness could affect all our shields. The same weakness that allowed my toy to shatter your supposedly impenetrable technology, Dallas explained. We didn't fix it. We embedded it deeper, created a backdoor that could be activated remotely. Vorak turned to Javed, fury radiating from him. You allowed this? I helped enable it. Javed corrected with surprising steadiness. For the future of our people. You've doomed our people. Sora shrieked. Without our shields, the subjugated worlds will rise against us. Millions will die. Not if we negotiate peace instead of continuing to conquer, Rin countered. Father, this is your opportunity to transform the Empire into something sustainable, something that can thrive without endless warfare. Vorak's massive wings trembled with rage. I should kill you where you stand. Perhaps, Rin acknowledged, her voice softening. But first, you need to make a choice. In 20 seconds, our military advantage disappears. You can order a galaxy-wide attack in vengeful desperation, where you can open diplomatic channels and begin a new chapter in our history. The Emperor stared at his daughter, centuries of imperial tradition warring with the undeniable reality of their situation. Dallas held his breath, acutely aware that this moment would determine the fate of countless lives, including his own. 10 seconds, Javed announced. Quietly, Vorak's eyes moved from Rin to Dallas, then to the pulsing crystal matrix. You truly believe peace is possible? After all we've done, the species we've subjugated would accept negotiation rather than revenge. They'll follow humanity's lead, Dallas said with more confidence than he felt. And I give you my word, we want peace more than vengeance. 5 seconds, Javed warned. Vorak closed his eyes briefly, his massive wings folding slightly in what appeared to be resignation. Send a stand-down order to all Crisari forces, he finally commanded. Defensive positions only. No aggressive actions. Sora gasped in disbelief. Emperor, you can't possibly. Enough, Sora. Vorak's voice thundered through the chamber. The choice is between potential peace and certain destruction. As Emperor, I choose the survival of our people. Throughout the chamber, displays flickered as the transmission completed its journey. Across the galaxy, on thousands of Crisari warships and battle stations, energy shields failed simultaneously. A collective moment of vulnerability unlike anything the mighty Empire had ever experienced. In that same moment, countless subjugated species felt something they had long forgotten: hope. Eliza's communication device chirped urgently, drawing her attention away from the resistance meeting in progress. The small gathering of humans and allied species fell silent as she checked the incoming transmission. "It's the signal," she announced, hardly daring to believe it. Dallas did it. "Crisari shields are down, galaxy-wide." The room erupted in a mixture of celebrations and urgent questions, but Eliza raised her hand for silence. "There's more." A transmission from the Crisari Emperor himself. She activated the holographic projector, revealing Vorak's imposing figure. "Attention all worlds under Crisari authority." The Emperor's message began, his voice subdued compared to his usual imperial pronouncements. "Effective immediately, all Crisari forces are standing down from offensive operations. We propose an immediate cessation of hostilities and the beginning of diplomatic negotiations with representatives from all affected species." Murmurs of disbelief spread through the gathering. Some suspected a trap. Others couldn't comprehend this sudden reversal from their oppressors. "The message continues," Eliza reported, eyes widening as she read ahead. "The human Dallas is appointed as special envoy, along with Champion Rylan, the Emperor's daughter." "Can we trust this?" asked a Navari representative, his crystalline features reflecting skepticism. "We've confirmed shield failures across all Crisari installations we can monitor," replied a resistance technician. "Their entire fleet is vulnerable, more vulnerable than they've ever been, which means this could be our one chance to destroy them completely." A Thoraxian general growled, his insectoid mandibles clicking aggressively. Eliza shook her head firmly. "That's exactly what we won't do. This is a moment for building something new, not perpetuating the cycle of violence." She looked around the room, meeting the eyes of each species representative. Dallas risked everything to create this opportunity. We owe it to him, and to ourselves, to seek peace first. Reluctant nods spread through the gathering, though not without continued murmurs of caution and skepticism. "We'll send a delegation," Eliza decided, "but we maintain all our defensive capabilities during negotiations. Trust must be earned on both sides." As the meeting dispersed to prepare for this unexpected opportunity, Eliza found herself alone with the holographic recording of the Emperor's message. She replayed the final segment, where Dallas briefly appeared alongside the Crisari champion. "We stand at crossroads," Dallas's recorded image stated. "For too long, the Crisari Empire has relied on technological superiority rather than cooperation. Today marks the beginning of a new approach, one based on mutual respect rather than domination." Beside him, the formidable Crisari champion nodded in agreement. What had transpired to create this unlikely alliance? Eliza wondered. Whatever had happened aboard the Imperial flagship, Dallas had clearly accomplished far more than their wildest hopes. "We'll see you soon, old friend," she whispered to his image before shutting down the transmission. 2 months later, Dallas stood on the observation deck of the newly commissioned peace station, gazing out at the stars. The neutral facility, built in unclaimed space between Crisari and human territories, had become the center of unprecedented diplomatic activity. "Admiring your handiwork?" Rin asked, joining him at the viewport. Her uniform had changed. Gone were the imperial insignias, replaced by the simple emblem of the Provisional Council they had helped establish. "Still can't quite believe it worked," Dallas admitted. "There were so many points where everything could have fallen apart." "My father might still change his mind," Rin noted, though her tone suggested she didn't truly believe it. "The old guard hasn't entirely accepted the new direction." "Including Sora?" Rin's expression darkened slightly. "She's been confined to a monitoring station on the outer territories. Still dangerous, but with limited influence for now." They stood in comfortable silence for a moment, watching as a mixed delegation of humans and Thoraxians docked at the station. In the 2 months since the shield failure, dozens of formerly hostile species had begun working together, initially out of necessity, but increasingly out of genuine cooperation. The Navari crystal ship technology paired with Crisari propulsion systems is proving remarkably efficient, Dallas observed, changing the subject to more optimistic developments. Javed says the hybrid vessels could reduce interstellar travel time by nearly 60%. Cooperation has benefits my father never considered, Rin agreed, though he's beginning to see them now. Dallas turned to face her directly. And you? Any regrets about your choice? Rin's violet eyes met his. I was raised to be a champion of conquest. Becoming a champion of peace requires adjustment. You're doing remarkably well, he assured her with a smile. As are you, for a prisoner who nearly died in our arena, she returned, a hint of teasing in her voice. Their relationship had evolved significantly since those early days, developing into something neither of their species had terminology to properly describe. Special envoys? Eliza's voice interrupted from the doorway. The council is assembling. The Zinthri delegation has arrived with their proposal for the rehabilitation of the outer colonies. We'll be right there, Dallas acknowledged. As Eliza departed, he turned back to Rin. Duty calls. Always does, she agreed, but didn't immediately move to leave. Instead, she extended a hand toward him, a human gesture she had adopted, recognizing its significance to his culture. Dallas took her hand, still marveling at how natural it felt despite their physiological differences. When I made that weapon in my cell, I never imagined it would lead here. When I called it a toy, Rin replied with a rare, full smile, I never imagined it would shatter more than just my shield. Together, they walked toward the council chamber, representatives of species that just months ago had been mortal enemies. Behind them, through the viewport, stars continued their eternal dance. Unchanging, yet bearing witness to a galaxy irrevocably transformed by an engineer's ingenuity and a warrior's courage to question everything she had been taught to believe. The universe, it seemed, had infinite capacity for surprise, and perhaps even greater capacity for hope.